All right, so today we are doing some magic, which I think is really cool. Um, so I've prepared the two solutions, solution A, solution B. Um, so I then poured some of them into a separate cup because I wanted to kind of play around with how fast the I2 would be created. So basically, these two solutions, when the iodine interacts with the vitamin C, it turns it to I negative, which is colorless. So by adding the hydrogen peroxide, you are creating it back to I2, which has color. So when you mix those two solutions together, they're going to go back and forth very quickly. But eventually, because we added so much hydrogen peroxide, eventually the I2 is going to win out. And once the I2 starts creating, it interacts with the I negative and creates the I3 and basically creates this really cool blue color. So that, in a nutshell, really quickly, is what we're doing. But I wanted to play around with the time it takes for reactions. So first I just did a very basic room temperature, everything the video said to do. And it took about a minute for it to react and turn into this lovely color here. It's a little brown because I waited a while to film this. So that was kind of my control. But then I wanted to play around with the different mixtures a little bit. So first thing I did was add more vitamin C to one of the solutions because the video said that it would take longer for the vitamin C to be fully reacted with the hydrogen peroxide so that it would take longer for the I2s to be formed. So theoretically, the more vitamin C, the longer it'll take for it to change color. So I added more vitamin C, and I've been waiting, and it took about a minute and a half to create, where's this guy? This color. So it took about a minute and a half. So it was a lot slower, but it did change. So then the last thing I did was with the rest of the solution, I heated up because the video also said that temperature affected it. So I heated it up in the microwave and it created that amazing blue color after about 22 seconds, I believe it was. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, the experiment alone is very cool. You can see with your eyes it chemical reaction happening, which is so cool. You can see all the I negatives all at once get transformed into this colored solution, which is so cool. But on top of that, being able to control how fast it happens, I think is really cool. So the vitamin C adding more in excess definitely worked. I didn't want to add too much because I didn't want it to outweigh the excess of the hydrogen peroxide and then have no chemical reaction. So I just added a little bit more, and it definitely took about 30 seconds longer for all of it to get transformed into the I2s and the I3s, the colored solution. And then the heat, I'd like to do a little more diving into why the heat affects it so much, but it was a very quick reaction with the heat. I think it just kind of sped up the whole chemical reaction in general. And yeah, so it went a lot quicker with the heat, which I think is very interesting. In conclusion, very cool experiment turning I negatives into I2s. You can see it with your eyes, the color change. And if you want it to go super fast, heat up the water so that the chemical reaction happens faster. All right, have a good night.